Welcome back, everybody, to Cats Coverage. We're here for what feels like a special edition of this podcast. We've been hitting them consistently since the beginning of the basketball season, still rolling through the off season as this thing never ends. It feels like, fortunately and unfortunately, it never stops. But this feels, it kind of feels like a special edition. Kentucky basketball just got a new coach, Mark Pope, and we all three were in there for a sold out. Well, I guess I can't technically say sold out because it was free, but standing room, max capacity only, Rupp Arena, where I was told by one of the UK staff members that would walk past me, they said over 5,000 people were turned away at the door. What, for a press conference? Like, that's Kentucky basketball for you, man. No, what other fan base is doing that? And it was, I got to kind of humble myself real quickly, but like I had the literal best seat in the entire Rupp Arena, front row, front and center. Like I was sitting there like, how the heck did I get here? So that was such a crazy core memory I'll never forget. And then you guys are right there on the floor with me as well. I mean, we all were right there. I just was so in awe of like looking around at all the fans. Like it was just a special moment. And something I'll never forget, the hiring of Mark Pope. Michael, we'll throw it off to you. You were back there holding the camera. You actually had as you normally do, always got these good questions. You had him a good question. What's your takeaway of the Mark Pope press conference?
Yeah, it was good. I understand that everything's positive on a day like that, a lot of excitement, but and the questions were kind of about excitement, but I kind of had to ask a tough one like I usually do and just like, look, despite this being a fantastic day, like as well as anybody that you need to win in March. What are you going to do to turn this program around and win in March, and get farther in the tournament? And he was just like, yeah, I mean, I'm not shying away from that. That there's no shying away from it. You can't come to Kentucky and shy away from it. And, he said it a lot in his opener. He's, expecting to put up banners, that's the expectation here. So I thought he was great, man. He nailed the presser. The fans, bro, how many times does an introductory press conference have fans 360 degrees around the stage? Like they had curtains up behind the stage and that video and the platform. They had curtains up because it was only going to be like half the arena, and then they took it down because it went all the way around, man. Like that is pretty insane. The Go Big Blue chants were going like 45 minutes before it started, and that by then it was like half packed already. They were only expecting half the arena. That whole thing got filled, man. That was special. And Andrea Walker, our anchor, she was like, "This is what Kentucky basketball is like. Like this is how it was before you guys got here." Because I've only been here a few years. When my first season was the St. Peter season. I haven't covered a long tournament run. There was certainly excitement that year, but that was the beginning of like the frustrations with Cal.
Michael, I feel like I've known you forever. You've only been here since the St. Peter season? What?
Damn, Oscar's first year. Gosh, it feels like I really wish I was here for the good years, the good Cal years. But man, it was cool. Happy for Pope. Happy for his former players. They were all happy for him. Really great day.
Tim, what's your thoughts, man?
That was probably one of the better sporting events I had been to. And it's crazy to think that it was for a press conference, like you were saying, Michael. But it was electric. He's certainly energetic. If I know there's a lot of question about the hire and everything, but if nobody, if he hadn't convinced anybody that he belongs here before then, he definitely did after that press conference, I would say. He fully understands what it's like to be here at Kentucky. I mean, he played here, of course, so he fully understands that. And I cannot tell you how many times I got goosebumps, honestly. It was so much just from the moment. I mean, like you're saying, like an hour before people were chanting, I was sitting there getting goosebumps just walking into the arena, seeing the line of people and everything. It was insane.
Dude, I'm not even a fan, and like I was almost getting emotional, like when they were playing the video, and I love that hype video that they have. Like I think they brought it out like halfway through the year, maybe like the start of SEC play. The like Dream On, Dream, like that one, the newer one that they cut. That one is pretty epic, man. Seeing Dwayne Casey like early at the beginning of the video, and then they just go through it, and then they play that, then the bus comes in, and then all the former players come out, and then Pope comes out and like raising the trophy just like he did at '96. Man, they scripted that perfectly. Like, well done to everyone. Well done to Mitch Barnhart. I know he's got some heat on him right now with this lawsuit and stuff, and like he's had a stressful week, of course, with this hire. So, he got a nice day. That was a really great day for the program, the university, the fans. I mean, really well done. I thought it was awesome. Everything was perfect. And Pope was spot on, man. He fed off the crowd. The 96 banner was spotlighted. They did really well. Best press conference I think I've ever covered in my career. That's for sure. It's not the best introductory press conference of all time. I mean, it was probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I saw all the national media online going nuts. Like, just the way I was sitting there Sunday night thinking about, like, what did we just witness? And I was sitting there and kind of trying to collect my thoughts. I'm like, damn, Kentucky basketball just flexed on the country once again. Like, no one's doing that. Rupp Arena is one of the biggest arenas, and there was 5,000 people out in the streets, couldn't get in. Like, other teams don't even get home games for half the amount. Like, what?
Arkansas didn't even get 5,000 in there for theirs, right? How many did they have? Like, what, 3,000 maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah. Two different worlds, and I think it fully helps for anyone that questioned it. Kentucky basketball is its own brand, but it didn't end when Calipari left. It took a little hit, and we're in an adjustment period. But Kentucky is still flexing. And another thing is, you're going to get all these fans that kind of jumped out of the Cal era. Now, I would argue, don't jump back on the bandwagon if you weren't here for the bad stuff. But there's a lot of fans that are back on now that haven't been on since I don't really want to get into the whole Cal stuff around COVID time, and there's a lot of this fan base that's back on track now. And yeah, Michael, I didn't want to go off on that deep end, but
careful.
Yeah. And another thing is, with this being free, of course they wouldn't charge for it, but like, that was brilliant. Just, hype it up. Mitch Barnhart had his radio interview about it. All the people that really, there's some fans that can't afford to come to the game sometimes. Those are expensive. It's been expensive. And they got to come in and first come, first serve, get your seat. There was fans there at 8:30 in the morning. I saw an interview of a guy, he came from Tennessee of all places. Came here at 8:30. He's like, I had to be here. He said, I grew up watching Mark Pope play, and now my son's going to get to watch him coach here. He said, this is special for me and my child. And then, I didn't get there until about 3 because media couldn't get until 3:30. I didn't think that I needed to be there by noon, but about 12:31, all these reports come out, and there's lines out all through the streets of downtown Lexington. And we asked, me and Tim were walking out with Evan Crane, and asking him kind of like, man, I asked him, I was like, what time did y'all start to realize that, like, you start needing to adjust this? Like, things might be overflowing here, max capacity. And he's like, dude, about noon. About noon is when we realized we got to start improvising and adjusting. So that's crazy. That's 4.5 hours before a press conference. Like, this fan base is so special, man. And another thing that I thought really hit the point is, I saw this tweet. I can't remember who it was. She's just a person that doesn't do media or nothing, just a fan. She said, we gave up being cool to get our soul back, something along those lines. I'm like, that was perfect. I mean, Coach Cal is a rock star, and he had all the draft picks and the spotlight, and I had marketer, but like, we threw out the cool guy to have this feel good moment. The 90 guy, he played here, was the team captain on a national championship team, knows what it takes to win a title here, and comes back to coach the team that he played for and won with. And it's just, I felt like going through, I want to get in this too. I felt like when we went through all that press conference, and I was telling Tim right before he got on here, I felt like they sat there and said, they had these 10 points to hit, what Cal didn't do here, and all the feel good points, and they hit every single one of them. And he's got some good quotes in there that kind of was a shot, I think, at Cal, but there's also some good ones, embracing what it's like to be, this brand is Kentucky basketball. Kentucky is bigger than any coach. You come here to play for the name on your jersey on the front of it, not the back, like the whole shabam. And man, I was just in awe. That was a core memory, man. I walked away like, wow, he killed it. 15 out of 10. Like, what?
Yeah, and producer Tim, you had a great point. Like, he proved that he belongs. Even though his resume doesn't belong, which was the fan base's initial hesitation, his resume certainly doesn't belong. He hasn't won an NCAA tournament game. So, like, the excitement, it's like, hold on. Yeah, it's great. You guys will also run him out of town in like 2-3 years if he doesn't get out of the first weekend. Like, probably 3 years, But, like, if he doesn't get out the first weekend this year, it's like, okay, this roster is a disaster. Who knows, who he'll be able to throw together for a team. he's going to have to recruit and get a good team in here for year 2. And if he doesn't like win an NCAA tournament game, it's going to be like, whoa, like that the time will start ticking real quick for him. But obviously that's a a worry for way down the road, because he deserves a fair chance. And I think he'll do well, man. He hinted at it in this radio show tonight too, like the hot button topics, like the getting guys, not just raw talent, trying to build a team that's a cohesive team, not just getting the best raw pieces and, like the 5-star, one and done approach. And he even said something about like the Arkansas game, like when that comes here, to Lexington, it's going to be a big game. So that was another takeaway. Like he did not shy away from the hot button topics. He said winning the SEC tournament matters, which the fans, got a big joke out of and big roar. So I love his confidence. I do. He and you can feel his love for the school, man. He loves the school. The fact that not only that he won a national championship here, but just that he played here, like you can see it. Cal obviously didn't play here, but like not every great coach has to play there. But it'll make it that much sweeter if he does win. Like the fact that he played here and want to put up a banner here as a player. If he did it as a coach, I mean, he would go down in absolute history. But obviously so much has to happen before then, and we'll obviously talk about the roster and all that too.
Yeah, and the Maui Invitational. Maybe we can get a boys trip down to Maui sometime. That would be nice.
Are any of you big surfers?
No,
I'm not.
Learn
But
if
I would
get
start.
To go to Maui.
I would start. That's for sure.
I'm down to eat shit in the water for a couple of flips. Let's do it.
Yeah. But kind of touch on some of the recruiting some. Well, just overall with him coming in, not really having the resume, there's definitely a lot of optimism from the fans. I think a lot of that, when it comes to recruiting, comes from the fact that he in BYU had a really good season last year, finished above Kentucky, and that's at BYU, probably one of the most religious schools that are in this country, very restricted, yet he's still able to bring in those recruits and go that far that he did. So with us being Kentucky, of course, we don't have those type of restrictions. It's the brand that's really going to be drawing those recruits in, I think.
Yeah, I think he really keyed in on that, and to kind of put what you all both said together, is like he doesn't have the resume. I'll throw myself under the bus. He's not qualified to be the coach in terms of his coaching record, like in my opinion. But I think he's rallying behind the point of he knows what, Kentucky first, this brand first. I understand all of it, everything else, and he's a solid coach. He needed probably a few more years to put on his belt to have some impressive wins. I mean, to hit the tournament run and things like that. But if you're gonna go after a guy, I don't think Scott Drew would have got that turnout. I mean, I think he really hit on the fan, I'm one of you all kind of things, and I think he's rallying on that. Another thing is his offense. Like he just for you all listening right now, the Mark Pope show just got finished this Monday night. This will be aired on Tuesday night, but he just got to there talking about his offense and talking about how fast paced it's going to be. I did see a stat that said BYU shot the second most 3-pointers out of any school last year. So like that's they're going to come in and shoot 3-pointers. They're going to guard the whole court. They're going to rely on the 3-point line and be deep in the corners. Exciting, total different philosophy than Cal had. And this Cal and him will be a comparison for a little while, and then it eventually die off just because it's new. But like we're entering a brand new philosophy and a new world of Kentucky basketball. Like it's good to kind of see something different for once.
Yeah, but at the same time, like this year's team was great offensively, right? They were the second highest scoring offense for a while for those first like 3 months of the year. And it didn't work. It's right. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like you can't only have a good offense. So, and BYU, they didn't have a great defense last year either, but it was better than UK's. So they're going to need to play on both sides of the floor. I think that'll come with his roster building too. He's going to need to get guys that are like just with that reputation that are going to come in ready to play on that end of the floor and just create a mentality in that locker room like that whatever happened last year is unacceptable. Even though nobody from last year's team is going to be on this year's team, like quite possibly zero, with maybe the only exception being Reed Shepherd, maybe, if you're lucky.
Derbyshire, Walker Horn.
Walker
They may be
Horn.
here. Share their
Horn.
experiences some.
Oh Lord, yeah, they'll be like, yeah, last year was brutal, guys. Let's step it up. So that's, if anything, maybe that's good for Pope, that they're all his guys. And Reed will become his guy because his daddy's best buddies with him. So I don't know. It's gonna be. It looks bleak right now. So it'll shape up in the next few weeks. I'm excited just to see that first player that Pope gets, which will probably be a BYU transfer, which I don't love. He's going to need to get some bigger guys. He can't just have his BYU guys be like his best guys he's bringing in, or else it's going to be ugly. So he's got to really hit the portal like big time, and the NIL will help. But it's looking right now that Cal doesn't have a great roster either, but he's got Z, and he's maybe going to bring DJ, who hit the portal this morning. So Cal's going to get, and you don't have to compare which team's better, Arkansas or Kentucky, which roster's better, but naturally people are going to do it, and they're going to see that Arkansas is a better team. So Pope's got a lot of pressure on him to be a GM. This is what it is, man. It's free agency now. You gotta make your deals and go get some guys in here.
Yeah, Michael, I think if at least if I can speak for myself, one of the scarier moments of transitioning and letting Cal go to another school is that, like, you're not going to get the 5 out of the top 50 draft, a projected draft picks or players at top 100. Sorry, that's what I meant. And you're not going to get the big names. We're going to have to go out and actually scout our players that we're getting. They're not going to be all over the McDonald's All-American, at least not a half dozen of them every year. But the thing is, how many have we had of those the last 4 years? Like, we've had more talent. Duke would be the only one that came into conversation a couple of times every single year. And what has it resulted in? It was great for a while, but like, we're giving up what we're thinking, that we're going to miss out on. Well, we just had that and did nothing with it. So like, I don't think we're losing a whole lot. You lose all the excitement and the hype, and they're following these individual players, just like, Rob Dillingham. I mean, he was a brand himself, and you get all the extra, like, Slam was at all of our games, at Kentucky games this year, like things like that, the DJ Wagner and his dad. But like, I mean, we lost in the first round. So like, what are we really missing out? I'm excited to try something different. And clearly the teams are in the Final Four, that were in the Final Four this year, aren't doing what Kentucky was doing. They're doing something different. So let's learn something from that.
Yeah, I will say too, though, that if Pope would certainly take those guys if he could get them, right? Like, I mean, he would take Boogie Flan in an instant. Like, that one hurts. Quayton's obviously was the highest rated freshman coming in. He was a project, like a 2 and done. He was only 16. Carter Knox, Sam Tosiro, yeah, those guys are gonna follow Cal. But Boogie was the big one, man. Boogie was about to be a dog. Like, that guy was going to be like the next great Kentucky guard, that was going to be one and done, go to the NBA, but he was going to be good. So that's a tough one. You just have to get Perry in here, have to get lucky with Reed, but I don't know, man. I don't see it. I really felt like there was a really good chance that Cal could have got Reed to come back and play here next season, which was kind of why I didn't really want Cal to go, because I felt like that, like, next year's team could have really been like badass. And I know this year's team was badass, and they fell short, and part of that falls on Cal. But like, if you could have got like DJ to come back and Reed, and then you got Boogie and Billy Richmond and the rest of the class, Z would have came back. Like, that roster is way better than what Pope is going to get in here. But Pope, can outweigh that by just being a better coach and getting a good staff in here. That's better than the assistant coaches that were on the staff this year. So we'll see. Time will tell with the roster, and it's really going to be like a couple-month process. Like, I could see Reed putting his name in the draft but keeping his eligibility, and then he has until like June to make his decision. And that's going to agonize the fan base, because like, we want to know now, right? Like, we want to know, but these kids are going to weigh their decisions. So I could see Reed like putting his name in and hearing from the NBA and then making his decision after that. But Pope is just, now is the time, man. His phone better be busy to start getting some commitments because they're gonna need it. I know Aaron just committed to Ohio State, Bradshaw, so these guys are gonna start flying, and Pope's got to make some moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Said in his thing about Reed Shepherd, he was like, I know that family's real faith-based. He's like, I hope God leads Reed Shepherd back to Lexington. So who knows? But Tim, I did not mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
It's all good. No, that's a good point we said about Reed. I think a lot of people are saying that right now. But Boogie, I think he's going to be kind of that player that we're going to see the highlights of and be like, man, what could have been? And there's several of the recruits too and transfers. They're going to go off and they'll probably have a jump in productivity. The transfers will. And so if he doesn't put a roster together, which granted it is his first year coaching in the SEC and everything, there'll probably be some fans like questioning if it was even the right move. I think without a doubt it was, but people are expecting instant progress and instant just positive change to come.
Completely different world. I'm excited. Again, I think he killed the press conference. Yesterday, like you said, Michael, there was nothing could go wrong that day. I mean, essentially nothing. It was a great feel good moment. I mean, so many people just were like, I have people message me that like I haven't really talked to in a while. It's probably been a couple months that kind of are bandwagon fans and things like that, and they kind of watch from a distance. That's probably the better word. Talking about how energized they are, and I think it's very like, are y'all? It's been tripping me out for days. Like, have y'all not been trying to grasp the concept of how most of the fan base felt Thursday night when this was announced, and by Friday night how we felt? Like Thursday night, I was not in a good headspace. I really wasn't. I was like, "Are you serious?" Like I texted someone, "Listen, don't tell anybody, okay? I'll never forgive myself." But I got to my breaking point, okay? I texted someone and I was like, "Man, are we heading to the Indiana basketball route?" Like, God, I cannot believe I just said that, but I was like, Mark Pope, like, I love all the whole background and personality stuff, but like, he's not qualified to come here. I'll still say that. I'm rooting for the guy, but he was not qualified to take this job and coaching wise, in my opinion. And by Friday night, I think all the stuff that happened, the donors coming through and all the positive people flipped like this fan. I mean, it was crazy. And then 3 days later on Sunday, the atmosphere in Rupp, like, what happened, man? I still can't understand that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to think about the timeline now because, like, and you just look at the other guys. Well, like, we knew that, like, Danny Hurley was going to say no, right? And he's like, I told you guys while we were recording the pod, last Monday night, the national championship game was going on. And I was like, you guys got to root for UConn to lose because if they lost and a three-peat is not on the table and you offer that guy $11 million, like he damn well could have came here and like he could have been your guy. So you guys got to root for UConn to lose. But when he won, it's like he's got a three-peat on the table. He's not leaving. But if he already got one and then he lost one and it's like, the roster's not looking great next year at UConn. Let's go. Like he really could have came. So, but that was tough. So that wasn't going to happen. The Scott Drew thing was wild, the flight tracking and, bringing his family up here. At first there was hope he was coming up here, but it was just his family. He tweets the picture of him in the Mexican restaurant in Waco with a Baylor donor. It's like, okay, he's not coming here. And then it comes out Thursday morning that, he tweeted, he turned it down. Nate Oates right away turned it down. And then we were getting to like the Billy Donovan, but you would have still been waiting. Like there would have been no presser at Rupp yesterday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. The Bulls play Wednesday. So you would have had to wait till like Thursday if they lost, or if they win, then they're going to play the loser of the 7-8 game, which I think is like Philly and who else, but in Miami. So then that would have been like Friday. So then you still don't have a coach. So even though like the getting Pope was tough at first, you wanted a top-notch A-list guy, but you got a pretty damn good B-list guy. I mean, he was the top of the B-list after your initial guys said no.
And I think a big reason why there was such an outburst of confusion and hate is because they went from Scott Drew to Dan Hurley, two huge names. And then there's, of course, talks of Billy Donovan. The timeline doesn't match up. But then some other names are thrown out like Shaka Smart, Todd Golden, Will Wade, even a little bit. Sean Miller. I mean, who else? A whole bunch of names.
Bruce Pearl, me.
Bruce Pearl. Yeah, that's
Dude, that would have been cool with Bruce. That would have been. I know the fans didn't want him, but that would have been funny.
Yeah. But Pope, the name was kind of thrown out a little bit, like possibility, and a few people were like, maybe, but let's go for these guys first, and then suddenly, boom, they're offering him the job. And I think that kind of came out of left field. A lot of people were expecting them to go after those big name guys first.
Well, and the man himself, Pitino.
And Pitino.
Like, you think Pitino was gonna have any problem putting together a roster? No way. Like, you got, even though he's old, like old man, he's still, you brought him back. I mean, he maybe could have got DJ to come back, but DJ's probably just gonna follow Cal to Arkansas either way. But like Pitino, he would have cooked in the portal too. I mean, he would have got a roster together. The thing with Pope is kind of like, there's still like who is this guy? And he hasn't won in the tournament. He hasn't proven himself. So those portal conversations, if you're trying to go after guys that I know Duke doesn't really need to do much in the portal, but like Duke and John Shire, then, or it's like Kentucky and Mark Pope, or like, some of the other, like Kansas, Bill Self. If a top transfer guy is getting talked to by Bill Self in Kansas, or it's like Mark Pope, it's kind of like, oh, okay, 2 national titles or 0 tournament wins, that puts yourself at a disadvantage. Pitino won 2 titles, and the other one counted. The Louisville one counts. He won a natty. And don't let those sanctions tell you otherwise. Trace, don't even start, man. He won that natty. So I think another part of that Thursday night kind of sadness from BBN was that other report. I think Matt Norlander was like, of CBS Sports, was like, they didn't reach out to Pitino. Like, they didn't offer Pitino the job. Now, obviously, like, Pitino came out with this video on Friday after the Pope hire was announced, and from his St. John's office, and that was awesome. Like, that Pitino to fully endorse him was awesome. But a little part of you, like, if this doesn't work out, it's kind of like, should we have just went with Pitino, just bring him back home? But who knows? I think Pope's going to be great.
That was a huge endorsement. And you said it, you kind of thought, are we getting Pitino? Is he back? But man, it sure feels like he's kind of back right now. I mean, he had that big endorsement. He's like, I'll write the NIL checks. Like, this guy's going to be great here. I think he even guaranteed a championship, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. He guaranteed success from Mock Pope is how he put it. Is Rick Pitino trying to get back in our good graces? Like, I mean, is he trying to make us like him? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, he knew what he was doing today with the tweet. He wants to come back, play the game here next year, which will be great. That'll be a great November game. Pack the place, celebrate Pitino. That'll be incredible. And then next year at the Mecca, that would be sweet. You go to the Garden and play, like, that would be epic. So that'd be a good double series, and then Pitino probably calls it a career after that. So hopefully that happens. The scheduling stuff is fun, and we'll follow that throughout the summer, I guess.
With what Pitino's been saying recently, he may get more cheers than a Cal does when he comes home with Arkansas, which is kind of crazy to think about. But you may hear some boos. Cal should not be booed, but he's gonna definitely be. Oh, he will be.
But I'm not. I agree with you both. Is what I'm trying to say. Michael, he's getting booed at least a little bit. I don't know, but I don't think he should either. I mean, man, that guy won us a title, man. But back to you all.
I mean, he just lost to Oakland. That's his last game at Kentucky. And
his first 6 years, man, were super elite. Like, dumb how elite they were. Like, mega successful. Like, even if you compile it all together, he's still more than evened out. Like, more positive than negative, I think. And I don't know. There's going to be a fan base. Like, seriously, I bet there's at least 25% of this fan base that will boo him just because of his personality and things like that. But, like, I don't think he should be booed.
I agree with you guys. I don't think he should be booed either. But
just messing up that kind of relationship. There was a lot of good to hear, it was, and it ended, what's the word, poorly, I guess, but man, it was so fun for so long. I hope he will, but I hope he doesn't. I'm just gonna kind of close my ears if some people do it. I don't know. Yeah, so that, Mark Pope starting the Mark Pope era. Tom Leach opened his call-in show tonight and said the Mark Stoops show, and he's like, "Oh, Pope." So the whole Mark and Mark, both of them in this town, and the UK Sports Network account tweeted out the UK Sports Network John Calipari healthcare show, whatever it's called, and they deleted it real quickly. You do something for 14 years the same way. It's hard to get adjusted to something new, but I think we didn't kind of allude this at the beginning, but we have a special guest coming on after this break that's coming up. A lady that's involved with BYU athletics. I believe she does radio there. Anyways, the point is she knows all about Mark Pope. She has covered him for a couple of years now. She's going to give us and the rest of Big Blue Nation a big insight of what we are getting out of Mark Pope, even after we got what we got out of the press conference on Sunday. But she's going to tell us all about him. I'm going to try to press her for a story that's not been announced yet, and just her overall thoughts of really covering them at a smaller level at BYU. So we'll be back after this ad break, and we'll have her on in just a minute. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for staying on that side of the ad break. We are now joined by special guest Lauren McClain with BYU Radio, host of Cougar Tailgate, I believe. Lauren, you are in the world of BYU athletics. Your coach came to Lexington, and we really wanted to get your take on Mark Pope. I mean, there's a section of this fan base that didn't get to watch him play here and win that title in '96. And this press conference was amazing, in my opinion, on Sunday. But we want to get your take. What's Kentucky fans getting in Mark Pope?
Oh, man. Well, what's cool is I think you guys saw a lot of it in that press conference. Honestly, that guy, he's so charismatic. And I know that a lot of Kentucky fans weren't really sold on him. He wasn't the first choice. But I think one thing you're going to find is he's one of the most personable coaches you will ever meet, which goes a long way with recruiting, with families, with donors, right? With lots of things. Endless energy. Like that guy, he's 52. I'm like, where do you get this energy? There's no way I could keep up with this guy. So that's one thing that I love about him. That is so sincere too. Like whether he's in a press conference, whether you're just chatting with him behind the scenes, that's the guy you get. He's very personal, very kind, loves basketball, loves his players, loves his family, loves his faith, and he's very passionate about those things. One thing I think you'll love about him, he rarely loses twice in a row. I think one of his greatest strengths when it comes to actual basketball coaching is he adjusts very, very well. He had great assistant coaches here at BYU, but he knows how to instill belief in his players. Here at BYU, very hard to recruit, right? It's LDS faith. There's an honor code. So I know a lot of the Kentucky fans were like, oh man, the guy hasn't even won a postseason game, right? He hasn't won a conference championship. And those are some of the downsides that you see on paper about Mark Pope. BYU very, very hard to recruit to. And when you see what BYU was able to do in the Big 12, their very first year with the guys that they had come in, and that's not saying the players weren't great, but you can only get a certain type of player here at BYU. Mark Pope was able to get the best out of them. And I think that's one of his greatest strengths. He sees what guys he's got, and then he pulls those strengths out of them, and he instills confidence in them.
Yeah, Lauren, I did a quick Zoom interview with Dana from our Next Star station in Salt Lake City, the sports director there, that station, and just to get some other thoughts on Pope. And he was kind of saying the same things. He does a great job of connecting with the media too, which is great, Dana Green. And so I guess does he have that same connection with the fan base there in Utah? Because he got it here right away. I mean, it was easy. They were hooked on him. But what were the fans' kind of opinions of Pope, even though just getting to the tournament twice, not winning a tournament game? How are they feeling? And are they surprised that he left?
I mean, I don't think everyone's bummed. I don't think anyone was super, super surprised because he kind of said it. Kentucky was always his end game. And we knew how much he loved Kentucky. He's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So we were like, maybe he'll stay here at BYU, maybe this is going to be the place. But we kind of always knew that he kind of had his hopes set a little bit higher. But as far as the fans go, man, they loved Coach Pope. The students just went insane for him. He did this thing called Midnight Madness before the season started, and it looked just like your guys' press conference. Honestly, it just was the Marriott Center, just packed to the brim with students, and that guy was dancing around. He had the students storm the court, like, because they can't do it during the season, right? Or you get fined. He's like, this is your chance. Come storm the court. And he's jumping up and down with them. And he's like, how tall is he, man? He's like 6'10", just this giant guy. Yeah, just this giant guy full of energy. And I think from that moment on, the fan base and the students here at BYU were just all for him, all for him. He was very, very good with the fans.
Tim, did you want to go for next, Tim?
I really hope we do something like that here at UK, because we used to do some campouts here, kind of before Cal and in Cal's early days. So I would love for something like that to happen here, because he's obviously one for the fans. He's really kind of the whole complete opposite of Cal. He never really went out to do types of things like that for fans, like big mass gatherings for fans. So something like that would be nice and refreshing to do, especially getting to cover it with media and everything. I would love that.
Yeah, I bet you'll get it.
One thing I really want to know, believe it or not, these guys joke on me so often about living under a rock. Like, I'm consumed in this Kentucky basketball football world and a little of the NBA and college basketball, but like they laugh on me. I don't watch the NFL. I don't do anything. They're like, what do you do? Live under a rock? So believe it or not, new to me, I didn't realize all the recruiting things that, you know, to come to play for BYU, you've got to sign to do, not do this. Can you kind of like, for someone specifically me who doesn't know about all that? I think you can't drink, just stuff we've seen online, things that in the party life. What are those kind of guidelines? Are there any ones that are strict, like you can just list off for us to come play?
Yeah, I mean, you named one of them. So they call it the honor code. And whether you're a member of the church or not, you sign on that you're going to follow this honor code. And I mean, some people get around it, right? but that's what they sign up for. And so that's what the coaches have to tell them before they come to BYU. So one of them, it's no drinking, smoking, drugs, sex, beards. That one, all fans are like, come on, let's just let everyone have beards. So you can have like a beard card. It's kind of an archaic thing that's more, I don't know. You know how like the Yankees can't have beards? It's kind of just something like that. It's supposed to like set BYU apart a little bit. So those are kind of the main ones, that you're going to be honest in all your dealings, that kind of stuff. But I think the biggest ones that can turn off these high school recruits or transfer portal guys that are just wanting to live their best college life, definitely the drinking, the no sex. I think those are the two main ones that I think can turn some guys off. But some people love it. Parents love it, right? The parents that are wanting to send their kids to BYU, they're like, yeah, go there. But yeah, so that's makes it really difficult to recruit here sometimes.
I'm sure those rules have been broken a time or two by a couple of those guys.
They definitely have.
For Pope, you know, his family was a big part of his press conference too, and I'm sure they were welcomed in that fan base too, and they certainly are here. But I think everyone's rooting for him. But like, do you think he's going to win? Do you think he's going to bring success here?
If I know anything about Coach Pope, is that he is the most determined guy on the planet. I think he's going to win. When I think of the guys that he can recruit to Kentucky with his kind of charisma and his coaching abilities, and if he surrounds himself with the right coaching staff, who knows, he might be bringing some guys from BYU, but I think he can do some phenomenal things. And his personality alone, I think, might bring you guys some players that you haven't been able to get in a long time. I think recruiting is truly one of his biggest strengths, and just an awesome guy, really good coach, very competitive. I think, I don't know, you can get hung up on his charisma, right? Like, oh, he's super personable, but can he coach? Because that's what we want, right? You want some wins. Very, very competitive. His wife, Leanne, you'll get to know her. She's probably more competitive than he is. She's kind of like his other half. And you guys will probably get to see that, but she has a big hand in what he does. She loves the players, all his girls, his beautiful daughters, they love their dad and everything that he does. So his daughter Avery plays BYU tennis, and I got to interview her not too long ago, and she just talked about how they're 100% behind him no matter what he does. And so now they're full on Kentucky. I don't know how she's going to deal with that because she plays tennis for BYU, but we'll see what goes from there. But yeah, they're an incredible family, and so I'm excited to see what he does there.
Lauren, I'm
Yeah,
happy
Trace,
oh,
go
here
ahead.
you go. All right.
Um,
I'm happy you mentioned Leanne because I was talking with Rex Chapman and he said he heard a story where Leanne makes cookies for all the opposing teams that come and play at BYU. Is there some truth behind that?
I think so. Yeah, I've heard that. I haven't like seen the cookies or tasted them. I wish I had, but yeah, I think she does. She's very much involved in what he does in a good way, right? Like I think it's really nice for Coach Pope to have that support from his entire family. Yeah, she's incredible. You guys will love her.
Yeah, Lauren, I'm glad you brought up the staff because everyone here is talking about the players. But like Trace, we were talking about the radio show. He said that he's got a couple assistants like right at the finish line, guys that he's coached with before. So you have to think, those are BYU guys. I'm sure he's not bringing Utah Valley guys to Kentucky. So that's probably going to happen here in the next couple of weeks and a couple days, really, probably. But I think the staff is pretty important too because Cal's staff wasn't really loved amongst this fan base. They had a reputation for being a little lazy, some of them. So I'm sure the assistants are going to be ready to work just like he is.
Yeah, incredible support staff. Cody, we're hoping not all of them go to Kentucky, right? Some of them are actually in the running to possibly be BYU's next head coach. So we'll see what happens when that's announced. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Cody Fugger head your way. He's awesome.
Yeah, Lauren, we were Kentucky fans are not telling you anything you don't already know. They're crazy that we were tracking planes of another coach just hours before of him. I know it was a quick process. He just said on his radio show tonight it was a 6-hour deal. I mean, he got contacted and was accepted and said yes within 6 hours. No brainer. In terms of your all side, watching your coach take another job, what was the timeline like for you all? Did y'all hear about stuff days before as well? Did y'all do any tracking? Like, what was it like for you all watching Mark Pope accept another job?
So the honest truth is we knew for a while that he'd kind of been dipping his toe in a few different places outside of BYU. And then when this Kentucky job opened up, we were like, oh, we didn't know if he was going to be the guy, right? We knew he would definitely want to be in the running to be the head coach, but I mean, I don't know, weren't there like 4 guys that had to turn it down before you came to Mark Pope? So it kind of did blindside even us as the media members that he took that head coaching job. But as far as him leaving, it wasn't a huge surprise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They wanted Danny Hurley. And I was like, you guys got to root for UConn to lose last Monday night in that national championship. Because if he has a three-peat, he's not leaving. And
right.
The Scott Drew one was interesting. But they're going to love Pope. But these fans, Lauren, they're crazy. And they're going to run this guy out of town in 3 years if he doesn't win in the tournament. So they can love him up right now. But the pressure's on the win, just like that. The same expectations that were on Cal and the same heat that he got the last couple of years losing to Oakland and stuff. Pope's going to get soon. So the time is ticking, but let's say conversation for down the road because he deserves a fair chance and he's going to get it here.
I mean, it makes sense. Kentucky's the blue blood of college basketball. And of course he's going to be on the hot seat until he does something. But honestly, you guys, seeing what he was able to do, especially this year, heading into the Big 12, BYU picked to finish last. They finished 5th. And that in and of itself, once Kentucky fans can kind of grasp how difficult it is to get the players that you want at BYU, there's no way he was able to get every single player that he wanted, which my guess is he's going to have a much better time doing at Kentucky. And he's a great coach. He had a live or die by the 3 this year, but that was mostly because of the personnel that he had, and he did a phenomenal job. I think you guys are going to love him, and I truly am rooting for him and hope for the best.
Lauren, we appreciate you coming on here. I did got one more question of you. I'm going to put you on the spot, but I promise it's easy. before we let you
Oh,
go,
boy.
can you give fans a story? Like, it doesn't have to be coaching related. Maybe a story that's made it out that we just don't know about, or maybe one that's not made it out, just kind of goes back into telling how great of a personality Mark Pope is, something he did in his time there that kind of meant a lot to the people in the fan base.
Yeah, so something he did every week. So I was the sideline reporter for basketball for a while as well, and so I got to interview him a bunch of times. But he did a coaches show on BYU TV every single week, and interviewed by Greg Wrubell. He's the play-by-play for radio, and so they would fill up. So BYU has a broadcasting studio that's honestly akin to ESPN. It's pretty incredible. So there's a big studio, and he would fill it up with fans and basically just talk about the previous game and the game to come. And then in between breaks, he would let the fans ask him whatever question they wanted. There was little kids there and, adults. Sometimes the questions were just so off, like the most random things where I'm like, are you kidding me? And he was just so great. Like, he's like, yeah, I wear a size 15 shoe, like he just was like, sure, I'll answer that for you. It's really weird, but I'll do that. And so that's one thing I loved. But something that just happened this past season is that so on that coaches show, he got together with Kalani Sitake, who's the head football coach here at BYU, and me and one of our BYU TV producers, Hemahe Muli, played this game against them on TV called Password. I don't know if you guys know the game Password. You basically just say a word so someone has the word, it's like the secret word, and then you have to say another word to try and get your partner to guess it. So he and Kalani Sitake were partners. And you guys need to look it up. It's easy. You can find it on YouTube. He's hysterical. Like, he is so, so funny. And he's just down for anything. Like, you wouldn't know. He kind of feels like a college student in some ways, like how like down he is just to do whatever fun thing that he wants to do. And I know at UVU, he would ask to do interviews in the most random places, just to like spice things up. He's like, let's get on a crane and let's lift ourselves up as high as we can, and we'll do an interview up here on the crane. Like just so random. He will do anything to make sure the fans, not to make sure the fans love him. That sounds weird because it's very genuine, but to make sure the fans are engaged and know who he is and knows that he just bought into everything that he does. That's one thing I love about him. He's super, super funny, super down to do whatever. So hopefully you guys can concoct something really fun for him to do, because I promise you he will do it.
Yeah, wow. Michael, Tim, a coach that is all about the media. Like, we had the guy that had the one-liners and could do the spotlight kind of deal, but like Kyle didn't care for the media. There's no relationship there.
Yeah.
This is gonna be different. Wow. That's exciting. But Lauren, before we let you go, Michael, Tim, did y'all have any final questions before you let Lauren have her night back?
No, it's good. I appreciate it, Lauren. That's a good perspective, especially the sideline stuff. I'm sure, he sounds like a good guy. Dana also said, he's got a great relationship with the media. He talks extra, off the record, all that good stuff, which Cal you couldn't even get a moment with Cal. The UK team would not let you get any breathing room, and Cal didn't want any of it anyway. So that'll be a change of pace, but it's good. We're excited about it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are in for a change for sure.
Yeah, I'm even more pumped for next season now. So appreciate you coming on here, definitely.
Lauren,
you bet. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you a bunch. You killed it. And we'll hope maybe have you back some other time down the road and get some of your perspective again. It was great. Again, we appreciate you coming on.
You bet. Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.